Welcome to this overview of how we built our fairy shed. This is not a how-to, but a how we did. When we bought our property, there was this odd triangle area in the back corner, and I thought this would be a great place to put in a fairy garden. So I started with a few discount plants, and then we got this metal arbor on sale, and that defined my area. Then I decided we needed a fairy house, or a shed to house all my sticks and stones that I've gathered on our travels. So I got to move outside the borders of the fairy garden, and we cleaned up a spot next to it. Tom asked what I wanted, and I drew it out for him on a scrap of paper. A fairy shed should have crooked walls, a fancy arched door, and a steep, ideally curved roof. That's all my builder hubby got, and he went to work planning dimensions and cut lists, within reason. Curved rooftop was not going to happen. We staked out an 8x10 spot as out of the way as we could make it. Because our ground is so unlevel, he built the base on 4 concrete pier blocks with pressure-treated 6x8 beams. The floor is 8x8 with a 2-foot front porch. We put down 2 4x8 plywood sheets for the floor and used 1x lined up for the porch, and then put on a couple of coats of paint. That gave us a platform to start building the walls. The sides slant out 1 foot on each side. You can see that angle better here. There were rain delays because we live in Oregon. After the back wall was built, we moved on to the front wall. There were a lot of, how are we going to do this type thinking moments. I was informed that we couldn't go steeper than a 12-12 pitch. All well. We planned a door in the front and an opening window in the back. Then it was on to the side walls. We had to lay the walls down at night in case the winds came. Tom found 5 free windows online, putting 1 vertically in the back and 2 horizontally on each of the short side walls. Then we decided to put on the T111 siding before we raised the walls. It made them much heavier and more stable, but our platform was feeling smaller. We decided to paint the back wall before it went up, as it would be hard to get to later. Same with the window trim. Then yay, the first wall was installed. Then the tricky slanted side walls. That red flag is because we kept almost hitting our heads on the beams extending over the porch. It was pretty exciting when the 4th wall went up. Yes, I helped Tom on the build too. Here you can see the motorhome we were living in and the dwindling pile of lumber we had to tarp each night there in front of it. You can see the windows over to the left. I was still deciding if I wanted contrasting trim color, so I was testing it out. I opted for no. Then it was time to start the roof, which required a lot of planning. We put up the ridge beam for the roof, which was fairly easy, but cutting out the birds' mouths on the rafters that went into the angled walls took a couple of tries. Getting the walls painted made it look like it was really coming along. Here's the view from inside the fairy garden. Then Tom started on the roof sheeting. He's the roof guy. While I stayed firmly on the ground painting trim. A 12-12 pitch turned out to be pretty steep after all. But Tom has no fear up there. It's looking pretty cute now. We added the fascia to the front. We had to rig up some pretty shady scaffolding for him to attach tar paper. This is where he got no help from me at all. We chose green metal roofing, mostly because I couldn't figure out how to thatch it. The back of the shed is right on the edge of our flat land, and it is pretty much straight down from there. It's even steeper than it looks. There's no way I'd go up on a ladder rigged like this. I was nervous just watching. First side of the roof is done. This is the front before the metal roof edging was added. I got to cut the metal edging and bend it around corners, with supervision from Tom's nephew. I got goaded into helping put in some final screws, but only if they promised to hold the ladder perfectly still. Here you can see how close to the edge of the drop-off it is. That white plastic barrel is covering our septic tank. Then the roof was done. Now we need doors and windows. First we added the window trim, then the windows, and the door needed a special cutout. That's better. We needed to make a custom door, so here I am routering the edges of the planks. We put the boards together and added some cute hardware. Now Tom has to figure out how to hang it. In the meantime, we added trim around all the corners and edges. Of course, it had to be a red door. I was trying to figure out if I wanted posts to come down at the corners of the porch, which we continued to barely avoid with our heads. I transplanted some sweet potato vines thinking they could grow up the poles. It didn't end up working though. The frame was carved out of 1-inch foam insulation board. Then I added plaster of Paris to build up some of the faux stones. The painting process took several layers and about 5 different colors. Then I thought covering the seam with shingles would look better than putting a horizontal trim piece above the door. The jury's still out, but it may look better over time. Had to repaint the porch floor. Caulking inside and out, and it's done. And here it is after a couple of years. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned to this channel to see what other projects we've done.